Our top story now, 2 COVID cases of the Omicron variant have been detected in Karnataka in men aged 46 and 66. These cases were detected more than a week ago, were mild, and both the patients have recovered. 5 contacts of the 46-year-old Omicron patient, a doctor from Bengaluru, have turned out to be positive. They are in isolation. The chief minister will be holding a meeting today afternoon. Here's a report.
24 घंटे के अंदर हमारे देश में 2 ओमिक्रॉन वेरिएंट के केस हमारे इस नेटवर्क के द्वारा डिटेक्ट किए गए कर्नाटका में, जिसकी रिपोर्ट कल रात काफी लेट आई थी, जिसको हम आपके सामने रखना चाहेंगे.
India's first 2 cases of the Omicron variant of COVID. Both have recovered and one has even left India. One of them is a 66-year-old patient who came from South Africa. The other, a 46-year-old healthcare worker who has no travel history. Both the patients were fully vaccinated.
Here is what we know about the 2 patients. Both have recovered. And the 66-year-old in the span of a week tested negative before his flight, then positive on arrival, and then 3 days later tests negative. This Omicron case was asymptomatic.
Between the 2 cases, almost 40 primary contacts and over 400 secondary contacts have been tested. And of the second patient, 3 primary and 2 secondary have tested positive for COVID and are in isolation.
कॉन्टैक्ट्स का अभी इसमें भी आपको बताया गया कि हमने कॉन्टैक्ट 3 टाइप के हम लोग ट्रेस कर रहे हैं. नंबर 1 प्राइमरी कॉन्टैक्ट, नंबर 2 सेकेंडरी एंड नंबर 3 टर्शरी. जो रिमोटेस्ट कॉन्टैक्ट भी हैं वो इस पूरे केस के ट्रेस कर लिए गए हैं दोनों के.
We need not panic, but awareness is absolutely essential. And not going to and not organizing mass gatherings will help breaking the chain of transmission of Omicron.
The Delhi Chief Minister called for tighter restrictions while the Maharashtra government announced new rules, making institutional quarantine mandatory for passengers from 3 countries, South Africa, Botswana and Zimbabwe. At India's airports, passengers are understandably anxious and under all sorts of pressures.
I have my flight on December 10th, but had to book another one because of the new virus. I had to book it because I am scared that I would be stuck here, that I would lose my job.
Landed on the 29th of November, one day before the new restrictions were imposed. I realized that I was pretty much stuck between a rock and a hard place when I tried to book my ticket back to London in January, and I was shocked to learn that the price of a ticket was 3,70,000.
But of the almost 8,000 passengers who have come in from India's list of at-risk nations, only 10 or so have tested COVID positive so far. That's just 0.13%.
The entry of Omicron in India poses yet another challenge in the fight against COVID-19. And while the highly mutated variant of COVID-19 is causing a scare across the world, our best bet against COVID-19 still remains vaccination and COVID-appropriate behavior. With camera person Xavier Thomas and Nihal Kedwai in Bangalore, I'm Akshay Dongre for NDTV.
Now, vaccinations have gone up in Maharashtra after the scare over the Omicron variant. Maharashtra has also reversed its earlier very stringent travel rules. Domestic passengers need vaccination certificate or a negative RT-PCR test, and institutional quarantine is only for passengers arriving from South Africa, Botswana and Zimbabwe.
The Omicron variant of COVID can be thanked for this queue for vaccinations. Same place a fortnight earlier when private vaccination centers were completely empty.
वो टाइम नहीं था, ऑफिस था, एवरीथिंग मतलब शिफ्टिंग था, घर का शिफ्टिंग था. अभी क्या जरा टाइम मिल गया, सब कुछ काम हो गया है, तो वो हिसाब से ले रहे हैं.
मेरा शिफ्ट चालू था ऑफिस का 1 to 10:30 बीच में एकदम.
The average daily vaccinations over the last 3 days are well over 10 lakh doses, up from around 5 to 6 lakh doses in mid-November. Doctors see this as a silver lining of Omicron.
ओमिक्रॉन नाम का नया स्ट्रेन डिटेक्ट हुआ है कोविड-19 वायरस का, तो उसकी वजह से जो है लोगों के मन में डर जो पैदा हुआ है वो इसके लिए रिस्पॉन्सिबल दिख रहा है. और लास्ट 1 वीक में जो नंबर ऑफ पेशेंट्स या नंबर ऑफ बेनिफिशरीज जो थे जो वैक्सीन के लिए आ रहे वो काफ़ी मात्रा में बढ़ गए हैं. जो वैक्सीनेशंस के लिए लिमिटेड नंबर्स हो रहे थे वो अभी ऑलमोस्ट 5 to 10 टाइम्स बढ़ गए हैं.
कई सारे लोग जिन्होंने की फर्स्ट डोज भी नहीं लिया था वो भी देखने को आ रहे हैं, और जिन्होंने सेकंड डोज अपना मिस किया था, जिनका सेकंड डोज ड्यू है, वो लोग भी आके वैक्सीन लेके जा रहे हैं.
In Mumbai, with Pooja Bhardwaj, Saurabh Gupta, NDTV.
In other news now, a cabinet note circulated by the government on the proposed cryptocurrency bill has suggested regulation of private cryptocurrency rather than banning it. The note also says that crypto will not be recognized as a legal currency in India. Further, the legislation describes cryptocurrency as crypto asset. According to the note that NDTV has accessed, crypto assets will be dealt with the existing crypto exchange platforms, which will then be regulated by the Securities and Exchange Board of India, SEBI. A cut-off date will be prescribed for those having crypto assets to declare the same and bring under the crypto exchange platforms, which will be regulated by the market regulator. Well, Delhi schools are shut today. That's 4 days after they had reopened due to the severe air pollution. Now, this after the Supreme Court asked the Delhi government why offices were work from home while 3 to 4-year-olds were going to school and the pollution was at severe levels. The Supreme Court has given the centre and Delhi government 24 hours to come up with a solution for the industrial and vehicular pollution. That is today.
Levels of PM 2.5 pollution today about 60 times above the World Health Organization's safe limit of 5 mg per cubic meter.
Schools have been shut again for the second time in less than 3 weeks. For 40-year-old vegetable seller Hari Kishore, this means dividing his time all over again between work and home tutoring his children. Losing out time at work means he won't be able to earn enough.
क्योंकि पहले भी कोविड की वजह से 1.5-2 साल नुकसान हुआ, फिर दोबारा स्कूल से बंद होने से बच्चों को स्कूल का एजुकेशन बहुत प्रभावित हो रहा है.
While the state government cites the rise in pollution today, the decision to close in-person schools came after the criticism from the Supreme Court.
अभी पुनः जो है जो हालात दिख रहे हैं उसमें प्रदूषण का स्तर बढ़ रहा है और अभी आज ये अभी सरकार ने निर्णय लिया है कि अभी स्कूल दोबारा बंद कर देंगे.
जमीनी चीजों को हमें स्वीकार करना पड़ेगा, कहाँ हमारी कमियां हैं, कहाँ खामियां हैं, उसको दूर करना पड़ेगा और मॉनिटरिंग जितना हम कर रहे हैं उससे ज्यादा भी मॉनिटरिंग करने की आवश्यकता पड़ेगी.
Merely closing the school is not enough. The Supreme Court pulled up the Delhi government for reopening schools while asking their staff to work from home. The CGI said, "You are saying you left it optional, but who wants to sit at home? We also have children and grandchildren. We know the problems that they have been facing since this pandemic." The court also gave a 24-hour ultimatum to the centre and Delhi NCR states for controlling industrial and vehicular pollution, the two biggest contributors. The top court also questioned the effectiveness of the new Air Quality Commission. The court said the commission has no power of enforcement or real prosecution. To which the centre admitted enforcement power is with states, but there needs to be reworking of power structure and it will respond on that tomorrow.
The Honourable Supreme Court asked as to why the pollution level was not going down despite the claim made by the central and the state government. They also observed that in such a situation emergency steps should have been taken by the government, but nothing has been done.
Treating this case as a priority, the Supreme Court will meet earlier than usual tomorrow. The matter will be heard at 10 a.m. instead of 10:30 a.m. In New Delhi with Himanshu Shekhar Mishra, Shonakshi Chakravarti and camera person Pooja Arya, this is Sukirti Dwivedi for NDTV.
In fact, a development in that story, and the centre has filed a response to what the Supreme Court had asked the centre and the Delhi government to file a response on what action they were taking against the air pollution. Let's go across to Sukirti now for more. And Sukirti, give us some details of what the response has been.
Well, yes, Kaji. So, a major part of the arguments that were taking place in the Supreme Court revolves around how the government keeps making claims, but the situation does not change on ground, which had led to the question of how does the government ensure implementation of all of these reforms that it claims about the report. So, as a result of that, the centre, which was in 24-hour deadline by the Supreme Court, considered secretary today. As not only form of enforcement power, but also line codes which will ensure implementation of the air pollution norms. 75 board have already been formed.
All right, so Sukirti giving us details of the response the centre has filed on air pollution. Remember, yesterday the Supreme Court took to task the Delhi government as well as the centre, saying you file a lot of information here, your lawyers give lots of arguments, but on the ground or in the air rather, the air pollution remains severe despite everything that is said in the Supreme Court. They also asked why children were going to school at a time when when offices were asked to do work from home and try to restrict the movement of people coming to offices. It's after that the Environment Minister of Delhi announced that schools would be closed from today. That's Friday. This is 4 days after they had reopened, and both the centre and Delhi government were asked to file reports in the Supreme Court on action that they have taken, and the centre has responded to that notice by the Supreme Court and said that there was an enforcement task force and flying squads for ensuring implementation of air pollution norms. Let's go back to Sukirti for more. Sukirti, tell us more about the response.
Well, yes, the centre has informed the Supreme Court in its affidavit that it has constituted flying squads as well as an enforcement task force, which will ensure implementation of air pollution norms across Delhi NCR. The 17 flying squads have been constituted already, which have conducted inspections at across about 25 sites. The number of flying squads will be increased to 40. These flying squads will be reporting to the enforcement task force, which very significantly will have the powers to take punitive as well as preventive action against people as well as entities who do not comply. Why this is significant is because yesterday Justice D.Y. Chandrachud had pointed out to the centre that while the centre has been forming committees, these committees do not have the power of prosecution, they do not have the powers for punishment. But the fact that this enforcement task force, which will be functioning under the Commission for Air Quality Management, will now have direct powers for preventive and punitive action, that makes it more powerful in terms of taking action. So that is significant at this point of time. Apart from the constitution of these forces, the centre has also informed the Supreme Court that all schools and colleges in NCR shall remain closed till further orders, allowing only online mode of application and other exceptions for laboratory practicals, etc. Entry of trucks in Delhi shall not be permitted except for CNG and electric trucks. So other measures also being taken for controlling pollution, but the major ones here being that centre now very stringently ensuring that the implementation of the air pollution norms takes place.
Hello and welcome. You're watching Good Morning India. I'm Gargi Rawat. Well, let's get to the top news now. In Delhi, schools shut 4 days after they reopened due to the severe air pollution. This after the Supreme Court asked the Delhi government why offices were work from home and 3 to 4 year olds were going to school. Now, the Supreme Court gave the centre and Delhi government 24 hours to come up with a solution for the industrial and vehicular pollution. And this morning, the centre filed its response. It said they had formed enforcement task force and flying squads for ensuring the implementation of air pollution norms. Let's go across to Sukirti now for more. Sukirti, give us more details of what the centre has told the Supreme Court.
Well, as far as the centre's response in Supreme Court is concerned, it has said that it has formed an enforcement task force as well as flying squads that will carry out inspections at various sites across Delhi NCR and will check whether air pollution norms are being complied with or not. 17 flying squads have been constituted already. They will be increased to about 40 in the next 24 hours. And the most significant point here is that this enforcement task force, which will function under the Commission for Air Quality Management or the CAQM, it will have powers of preventive as well as punitive action, because that was a major debate yesterday in the Supreme Court when the judges of the Supreme Court pointed out to the centre that while they keep forming committees, their committees do not have the power to take action. So those powers have now been given to this particular enforcement task force, which will have 5 members. So a significant move coming at this point when there has been huge debate on how committees are formed, how arguments take place in court, but the ground reality does not change. And with this, the centre seems to be saying that now there are going to be stringent checks by these flying squads as well as the enforcement task force to ensure that the ground reality also changes.
All right, Sukirti. So the Supreme Court will take up that hearing today on what action has been taken by the centre and Delhi government. Now, in other news and staying with the Supreme Court, the National Investigation Agency has moved the top court challenging the Bombay High Court's December 1st order granting bail to lawyer activist Sudha Bhardwaj in the Bhima Koregaon case. She was to appear before the NIA court on the 8th of December for framing of the bail condition. Let's go back to Sukirti now for more. And Sukirti, this, technical bail that she had got had been welcomed by many, given that she's been in jail for now 3 years in this Bhima Koregaon case. But the NIA now challenging this.
Well, yes, the NIA has moved the Supreme Court very quickly. On Wednesday, we saw this order from the Bombay High Court, and today on Friday, the NIA has already challenged it in the Supreme Court. On Wednesday, the Bombay High Court had granted that default bail to Ms. Sudha Bhardwaj on the grounds that the extension of her detention, the way in which her tenure was extended, was done by a court that did not have the right jurisdiction for it. So there were certain technicalities involved. However, the Bombay High Court had directed that she should be presented before a special NIA court on December 8, and the conditions of her bail are to be decided there, as well as the release date for her are to be decided. But it is, very important that the centre has already, at least the NIA, has moved the Supreme Court already challenging her bail, and Ms. Bhardwaj has already spent a very long time. She's been in jail since 2018.
All right, Sukirti, thanks so much for joining us with all those early developments. Well, let's get you the latest now on Omicron, the new variant, and 2 COVID cases of the Omicron variant have been detected in Karnataka. That was announced by the centre yesterday. This is in men aged 46 and 66 years. These cases were detected more than a week ago, and they were mild, and both patients have recovered. However, 5 contacts of the 46-year-old Omicron patient, the doctor from Bengaluru, have turned out to be COVID positive and are in isolation. The Chief Minister will also be holding a meeting this afternoon.
24 घंटे के अंदर हमारे देश में 2 ओमिक्रॉन वेरिएंट के केस हमारे इस नेटवर्क के द्वारा डिटेक्ट किए गए कर्नाटका में, जिसकी रिपोर्ट कल रात काफी लेट आई थी, जिसको हम आपके सामने रखना चाहेंगे.
India's first 2 cases of the Omicron variant of COVID. Both have recovered and one has even left India. One of them is a 66-year-old patient who came from South Africa. The other, a 46-year-old healthcare worker who has no travel history. Both the patients were fully vaccinated.
Here is what we know about the 2 patients. Both have recovered, and the 66-year-old in the span of a week tested negative before his flight, then positive on arrival, and then 3 days later tests negative. This Omicron case was asymptomatic.
Between the 2 cases, almost 40 primary contacts and over 400 secondary contacts have been tested. And of the second patient, 3 primary and 2 secondary have tested positive for COVID and are in isolation.
कॉन्टैक्ट्स का अभी इसमें भी आपको बताया गया कि हमने कॉन्टैक्ट 3 टाइप के हम लोग ट्रेस कर रहे हैं. नंबर 1 प्राइमरी कॉन्टैक्ट, नंबर 2 सेकेंडरी एंड नंबर 3 टर्शरी. जो रिमोटेस्ट कॉन्टैक्ट भी हैं वो इस पूरे केस के ट्रेस कर लिए गए हैं दोनों के.
We need not panic, but awareness is absolutely essential, and not going to and not organizing mass gatherings will help breaking the chain of transmission of Omicron.
The Delhi Chief Minister called for tighter restrictions while the Maharashtra government announced new rules, making institutional quarantine mandatory for passengers from 3 countries, South Africa, Botswana and Zimbabwe. At India's airports, passengers are understandably anxious and under all sorts of pressures.
I have my flight on December 10th, but had to book another one because of the new virus. I had to book it because I am scared that I would be stuck here, that I would lose my job.
Landed on the 29th of November, 1 day before the new restrictions were imposed. I realized that I was pretty much stuck between a rock and a hard place when I tried to book my ticket back to London in January, and I was shocked to learn that the price of a ticket was 3,70,000.
But of the almost 8,000 passengers who have come in from India's list of at-risk nations, only 10 or so have tested COVID positive so far. That's just 0.13%.
The entry of Omicron in India poses yet another challenge in the fight against COVID-19, and while the highly mutated variant of COVID-19 is causing a scare across the world, our best bet against COVID-19 still remains vaccination and COVID-appropriate behavior. With camera person Xavier Thomas and Nihal Kedwai in Bangalore, I'm Akshay Dongre for NDTV.
Now, vaccinations have gone up in Maharashtra after the Omicron scare. Maharashtra has reversed its earlier travel rules as well. Domestic passengers need vaccine certificates or negative RT-PCR tests, and institutional quarantine is only for foreign passengers coming from South Africa, Botswana and Zimbabwe.
The Omicron variant of COVID can be thanked for this queue for vaccinations. Same place a fortnight earlier when private vaccination centers were completely empty.
वो टाइम नहीं था, ऑफिस था, एवरीथिंग मतलब शिफ्टिंग था, घर का शिफ्टिंग था. अभी क्या जरा टाइम मिल गया, सब कुछ काम हो गया है, तो वो हिसाब से ले रहे हैं.
मेरा शिफ्ट चालू था ऑफिस का 1 to 10:30 बीच में एकदम.
The average daily vaccinations over the last 3 days are well over 10 lakh doses, up from around 5 to 6 lakh doses in mid-November. Doctors see this as a silver lining of Omicron.
ओमिक्रॉन नाम का नया स्ट्रेन डिटेक्ट हुआ है कोविड-19 वायरस का, तो उसकी वजह से जो है लोगों के मन में डर जो पैदा हुआ है वो इसके लिए रिस्पॉन्सिबल दिख रहा है. और लास्ट 1 वीक में जो नंबर ऑफ पेशेंट्स या नंबर ऑफ बेनिफिशियरीज जो थे जो वैक्सीन के लिए आ रहे हैं वो काफ़ी मात्रा में बढ़ गए हैं. जो वैक्सीनेशंस के लिए लिमिटेड नंबर्स हो रहे थे वो अभी ऑलमोस्ट 5 to 10 टाइम्स बढ़ गए हैं.
कई सारे लोग जिन्होंने की फर्स्ट डोज भी नहीं लिया था वो भी देखने को आ रहे हैं, जिन्होंने सेकंड डोज अपना मिस किया था, जिनका सेकंड डोज ड्यू है, वो लोग भी आके वैक्सीन लेके जा रहे हैं.
In Mumbai, with Pooja Bhardwaj, Saurabh Gupta, NDTV.
Well, returning to news from Karnataka now, where the first 2 cases of this variant have been detected in Bengaluru. Karnataka Chief Minister Basavaraj Bommai will be holding a meeting today to discuss the state's plans after the detection of these 2 cases. Karnataka is the first state to report the variant. Let's go across to Maya now for more. And Maya, give us more details of, what measures are being taken now.
Well, after this meeting, it is very, very possible that perhaps some more restrictions will be announced. Not yet clear on that. Karnataka has been taking the mild rise in COVID case numbers also quite seriously, with more restrictions on educational institution in terms of postponing any cultural event by at least 2 months, and further testing of students, especially students who have come in from Kerala. There are strict border checks as well. The major states of concern being Kerala and Maharashtra. But now, with the detection yesterday of 2 positive cases of Omicron, there is likely to be a little bit more concern as well. Both patients, it must be said, doing fine. One, in fact, has already left the country. The international traveller who landed and tested positive left the country on the 27th of November after getting a negative certificate from a private lab. The other one, a doctor working here, he was also discharged from hospital as it was a mild case. But the health minister did say that due to protocol, he is actually back in hospital now, along with 5 contacts, 3 primary and 2 secondary contacts of his, who also tested positive. Those 5 samples of his contacts have been sent for genomic sequencing to see if, in fact, they are also infected with the Omicron variant of COVID-19. Karnataka was, of course, the state to first report a COVID death back in 2020. So this also the first state now to actually officially confirm the presence of Omicron. The health minister saying that it's also because of Karnataka's good detection methods. The health minister will in fact be meeting the deans and other officials of government medical colleges and hospitals. There is likely to be a concerted effort to try and make sure that this variant, which as you said, some believe to be more easily spread than other variants, that is a possibility. So they will be taking measures to try and contain this and make sure that people who are infected with this do get the treatment that they need. So far, these 2 cases have been mild, which is the good news. But the fact the reporting of Omicron in Karnataka is, of course, a matter of concern. And this high-level meeting this afternoon likely to address that issue.
All right, Maya, thanks so much for joining us there with all those developments. Well, to talk more about Omicron and what it means, and now that cases have been detected in India, we're now joined by Dr. Suranjit Chatterjee, Senior Consultant, Internal Medicine, Indraprastha Apollo Hospital, Dr. Ravinder Mehta, Chief of Pulmonology and Critical Care, Apollo Hospitals, Bengaluru, and Dr. Ramakant Panda, Head of the Asian Heart Institute, Mumbai. Thank you so much, doctors, for taking time out and joining us on the program this morning. Dr. Mehta, first to you, Bengaluru reporting the first 2 cases of this variant, though many suspect it's already here in other parts of the country. At the same time, what's concerning is the doctor who tested positive had no, history of travel. Also, 5 of his contacts have tested positive as well.
Yeah, so I think it just comes down to where it was going to happen, as you said. Usually science has taught us, or actually events have taught us, that if it starts in one country, it's already there in many countries. It's just that that country was proactive and did its job better than most others. So it's no big surprise. Of course, it comes down to, it came to us in Karnataka. At the same time, we have to now understand that we have to now move the next level and see. The good part is there's a worldwide attempt to give information and all the things which matter, infection, the pathogenicity of the virus, how bad it's going to be, and so on. So I think it's expected. It just needs people to get the act into shape. We shouldn't go berserk, however. The initial reactions of trying to shut states down and all were clearly not so appropriate. And now the next 2 days will tell us which way we're headed. Again, time to get your act into shape, time to get your vaccination up, time to put precautions into shape all over again.
All right, and no reason to go berserk, as you said, and Dr. Panda, your view on this, because, there's been a lot of anxiety around the world, and yes, all these travel bans have come into place. Everybody's wondering what this now means, but at the same time, we're told that so far it seems to be a mild disease. We still don't know. There's anecdotal evidence, so we're waiting for more information from WHO. What is concerning is WHO has said that reinfection is more probable with this particular variant. If you could explain that to us.
See, in a hyper-connected world, and when there is an inequitable distribution of vaccine and vaccine hesitancy, still a lot of people who are not vaccinated, which means that the virus is circulating in the population all over the world for a long time. The longer it circulates, it's going to mutate. You have to understand the same way the flu virus, mutates every year. We take a flu vaccine. So it is not the last one, trust me. It is going to be third one, then there will be more mutations will come. We should not be really panicking, because the most important step still is vaccines are still effective, maybe little lesser effective, but still effective. I strongly suggest everybody to get vaccinated. Those who are elderly and high-risk population get a booster dose, and please follow the COVID appropriate behavior. Use the mask, use physical distance, hand wash. These are basic things we do. Unfortunately, this virus is going to stay for the foreseeable future with, as I said, 3 major things: hyper-connected world, inequitable distribution of vaccine, and vaccine hesitancy. So because of that, it's going to circulate, it's going to mutate. Again, future mutations are going to come. Hopefully, whatever scientific evidence there and also experience with other vaccine, maybe we'll come out with additional vaccine. But the present vaccine is still effective. I will not advise anybody to panic at all.
Right.
And as reports are coming out, it's a milder variant probably.
Right. We're waiting for the final word on that. Yes, but if we talk about vaccinations, we're waiting for, many are demanding this booster dose be there for at least, healthcare workers and doctors like yourself, and for the elderly, but no final word on that yet from the government. Over 41% of India is vaccinated currently. So, Dr. Chatterjee, so we haven't reached that 60% which we'd wanted to by the end of December, and therefore perhaps they can't announce boosters just yet. But the good news is in Maharashtra, people are coming back for their second dose of the vaccines, because that is something we saw was the gap. So it's important that everybody should get that second dose of the vaccine and ensure that people they know also go in and get that second dose, isn't it?
Absolutely. There's good news that this one thing good that has been done by this Omicron is that people have become more aware of the vaccine and they're coming back for the second dose. Forget about the booster dose. Booster dose is important. There are studies going about it, whether it's helpful, whether it's not helpful, whether the additional dose is helpful or not. Yes, in all probability, in immunocompromised people, elderly people, it would be definitely required in frontline healthcare workers. But what is very, very important, and I would agree with Dr. Panda, that you should, and everybody should get vaccinated. The second dose has to be taken so that you're immunoboosted. It is absolutely mandatory that you complete the course of your vaccination. Obviously, in the days to come, in the weeks to come, we'll know more about this Omicron virus, whether it has this immune escape phenomena. There are still a lot of holes in the knowledge about this new mutant virus. So whether it is more transmissible, whether it is more severe, whether it has an immune escape phenomena, time will tell. But as of right now, we should have a COVID-appropriate behavior, which is mandatory, and go ahead with the vaccination and complete to the utmost extent.
Right. Dr. Mehta, now Karnataka has had some cases of clusters of, COVID breaking out. You had that case of a medical college in Dharwad where, they had one freshers party and suddenly there were over 300 cases of COVID. We're still waiting to know what variant that was or, if we need to be more concerned about that. But such cases are still emerging. So really a reminder that we need to perhaps be a little more cautious as COVID is still not gone, because that it seems that everybody got lulled into some kind of, very comfortable, mentality, thinking that the worst is over.
No, absolutely right. Actually, just to think about these two cases also which have come, if we think the South African gentleman has been around for a week, our other professional also has been around for a while, so it's quite likely it's just there now. And these guys have traveled, they have 2-3 levels of contacts. Those guys will have to be tested. It's already all over the place right now. As my good colleague said, it is a massive wake-up call. The nature of COVID precautions and COVID behavior has been, we want to shoo the disease away. So all precautions, whether it's individual, governmental or organizational, go down over time. And the same was seen with vaccination. Besides that 100 crore benchmark, we had nothing good to talk about for a while. Now it's come down. Again, the reminder has come. These are there to stay. A, B, we will have to keep our guard up. C, we will have to have a worldwide consortium to share information. D, it's multi-centric. So don't go nuts. Take it as a worldwide phenomena. Vaccines should be spread out more. Vaccine success should be looked at. Share the data. Stay calm. Understand that you'll be in this what's called a preparation stage for a while, at least for a few months now. And that will help us to get over it with a more organized platform.
Right. And Dr. Panda, what you were saying about vaccine equity, that is something I think that's really come to the fore with the emergence of this new variant, because we do know that in many African countries, it's very low levels of vaccination so far, and the world really needs to do more. And you have all these organizations working to ensure vaccines reach various countries. And that is something that, we need the US and Europe to concentrate on as well.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. In addition to that also, there is a lot of vaccine hesitancy. A lot of people are not taking. So my again, I'll repeat that we don't need to panic. This virus again is going to mutate in future, is going to be there for some time. As long as the entire population, world population, not vaccinated, or they have developed the disease, they develop certain level of immunity. What the experience with other diseases is, as time goes on, the number of the waves are going to be lesser and lesser. It's not going to be like first and second wave. You don't need to panic, because there's already, as my colleague said, that 40 crore, more than 40 crore. There are 40 crore have been fully vaccinated. Another 40 crore has got one dose. Total 1.24 billion dosage has been given as of November. So we'll request everybody, please get vaccinated. That is going to give certain amount of protection. Plus, those who have already got infection, they will have some amount of protection. This is going to prevent at least the severe form of disease. I think very quickly the government and WHO will come out about booster dose, because not adequate information is there. You don't need to panic and give booster dose to everybody. But at least the high-risk population, we should cover them with the booster dose. And again, last but most important thing, please follow COVID appropriate behavior and don't panic.
All right. So just, be careful. We have all, that COVID appropriate rules in place. We know what we need to do and basically continue to follow that and not panic in the face of this new variant. Thank you so much, doctors, for joining us on the program this morning. Thank you. Now, the Omicron scare is beginning to hit the tourism industry. However, in the last 3 days alone, the industry says there's been around 20% cancellations in outbound travel ahead of the holiday season in December. This has come at a time when the travel and tourism sector was just about recovering well after suffering a huge hit over the last 1.5 years due to the lockdowns. NDTV's Sam Daniel spoke to Sriharan Balan, the MD of Madura Travel Services.
The Omicron scare is hitting hard the tourism industry, which was on its way to recovery. To talk to us more on that, I have with me Mr. Sriharan Balan, the MD of the Madura Group, a well-known travel services company in Chennai. Thank you very much for your time. What kind of an impact? You said there are lots of cancellations over the last 3 days.
Definitely there is a confusion among the travelers. We are seeing cancellations, we are seeing day change because the Dubai Expo is happening, a lot of student traveling, a lot of families traveling. The US is just opened, many countries, Canada is opened, Australia, New Zealand is opened. So
in terms of percentage, what would you say? And this is largely outbound travel or inbound?
Yeah, basically outbound is definitely a big number because we are in the Christmas Eve. People want to go to USA, people want to go to Europe. There are cancellations about 15 to 20%, primarily to Dubai, the Europe, because we've been hearing news in the Europe right now.
To help us understand, give us the figures. In 2019, before the pandemic, what was the outbound travel, be it in Tamil Nadu or across India? What was it last year and what was the estimates this year?
Definitely outbound travel is always more in number than the inbound travel because India or Tamil Nadu itself is a very, very big market. On average, 500,000 people would travel during this Christmas Eve across because the flights, Chennai is a very, very big hub. You know, it's one of the biggest airports in India. We have about 12 to 14 direct flights to Colombo. We had about 8 flights to Dubai, and all the major destinations had direct flights from Chennai.
In Chennai with Suresh, Sam Daniel, Find It TV.
In other news now, and NDTV brought you ground reports of how paddy farmers across Telangana are waiting for weeks and months to sell paddy. In Mulugu district, a 45-year-old farmer drank poison sitting on the paddy mound that he could not sell for 2 weeks. This even as the TRS government and BJP blame each other.
45-year-old Betu Kumar drank medicide and collapsed on the same mound of paddy that he had been safeguarding for 2 weeks now, hoping to sell at the paddy procurement center in Mulugu.
సంచులేం ఇవ్వలేదు సార్ వడ్ల రాసి మీదనే కూర్చొని తాగి వడ్ల రాసి మీదనే వడ్ల రాసి కానీ ఉన్న తమ్ముడు ఇన్నే తాగిన నేను గడ్డి మంది తాగిన ఇక నేను బతకాను ఈసారి కూడా ఎవరు కొట్టలేరు నీకు అప్పు కడతాను అందుకు పట్టారని అన్నాడు అవి సీడట్లు కూడా కాదు ఏం సైరా కొనేటి ఎవరు కొట్టలేరు ఇంకా అన్నాడు
కొంటలేరు 2 ఎకరాలు ఎట్లా పోయాలని అట్నే ఉంటుంది ఒక రైతుకు ఒక 2 ఎకరాల పొలాన్ని ఇచ్చిపెడితే ఎంత బాగుంటుందో ఒకసారి ఆలోచించండి ఆ రకంగా మొత్తం అప్పులు ఎంతమంది చేసిన అప్పులు అన్ని మన ఆత్మహత్య కారణం.
In villages across Telangana, this is the situation. Farmers are bringing their paddy to the paddy procurement centers, but there are no buyers. Farmers say, in between the political battles of the centre and the state, it is the farmers' lives that are being played with. The Telangana government has blamed the centre and has demanded that, like in Punjab, the centre should buy 90 lakh tons of kharif paddy instead of the 40 lakh tons they are procuring.
पूरा इसमें 3 महीने से काट के लाया मैडम इधर रख दिया तो उसे बोल रहा था केंद्र वाला नहीं ले रहा बोल रहा इधर राष्ट्र वाला नहीं बोल रहा ये झगड़ा कर लिया तो आपको रैत वाला क्या करता है मैडम.
Political battles can be fought in parliament and outside it, but for the farmers, the distress is mounting and it could become a do or die battle for survival. Both the state government and the centre need to treat this as an emergency. With camera person Nagraju, Uma Sudhir, NDTV.
Now, the issue of jobs is playing out in a big manner in the UP election campaign. Chief Minister Adityanath claims his government has provided 4.5 lakh jobs in the state. The opposition and Samajwadi Party Chief Akhilesh Yadav, however, say the Chief Minister is lying.
The Lucknow police breaking up this protest by student groups demanding jobs and accountability for a recent paper leak that affected 20 lakh aspirants after the cancellation of a major UP exam to recruit 50,000 government teachers.
We are on the streets of Lucknow right now, very close to the Vidhan Sabha. This group of people was trying to march to the Vidhan Sabha to carry out a protest against what they call rising unemployment. The police have stopped them here. All of these people being pushed into police vehicles and being detained and not being allowed to march to the Vidhan Sabha.
हमारे लिए तो रोजगार ही सबसे बड़ा मुद्दा है क्योंकि हमारे सामने ना कुछ दिख रहा है, सिर्फ अंधेरा ही अंधेरा दिख रहा है। सर हम लोग 26-27 साल की एज हो गई है सर, अभी अब तक हम लोग सिर्फ पेपर की तैयारियां कर रहे हैं।
Unemployment in India's most populous state is a major campaign issue for the opposition just ahead of the election. Chief Minister Adityanath claims his government has given 4.5 lakh jobs during its 5-year term.
उत्तर प्रदेश में शिक्षा के लिए, विकास के लिए, युवाओं के लिए, गरीबों के लिए उनके पास कोई एजेंडा न होने के कारण उन्होंने इस ओर अपेक्षित ध्यान नहीं दिया और यही कारण था, यहां पर कहीं पलायन होता था, कहीं दंगे होते थे, कहीं पर अराजकता चरम पर थी।
ये झूठ दमदार बोलते हैं, झूठ दमदार। ये दमदार सरकार ने वादा किया था कि नहीं किया था नौकरी और रोजगार का, लेकिन दमदार सरकार के तो 4.5 साल पूरे हो गए। 4.5 साल में हमारे बुंदेलखंड के नौजवानों को नौकरी रोजगार से पीछे छोड़ दिया। कोई नौकरी रोजगार का सपना नहीं देख सकता।
Many BJP supporters have claimed on social media that data from the independent think tank CMIE shows UP's unemployment rate is down from 17.5% in 2017 when Adityanath came to power to 4.2% right now. But CMIE's data actually shows the unemployment rate among ages 25 to 29 years almost doubled in 4 years, from 7.9% between January to April 2017 to 13.34% between May to August 2021. And even pre-pandemic, Uttar Pradesh's unemployment rate went from 3.8% just before the BJP came to power to 8.5% at the end of 2019, when Adityanath was midway through his term. Politics apart, the big challenge for UP's netas, how to ensure promises of more jobs actually work out on the ground. In Lucknow with camera person Vineet Verma, this is Alok Pandey, NDTV.